I studied senior phase, and I go into apply for a job as a senior phase educator, specializing in whatever subject that I'd be specializing in, and there is a gap, or a principal would say, for example, I would want you to go teach in intermediate phase, and I'm not comfortable with that, because intermediate phase learners are different to senior phase learners, and in terms of classroom management, I might not be able to handle it. How does one deal with such a scenario? As much as I would want to grow, but I want to give it my 100% and make sure that I deliver the knowledge as I have been trained and as I know, and I'm well qualified for the senior phase.
As an educator, one has got to have different approaches to the same content. And when you go to class, you should also be able to read non-verbal language. You have got to also be very, very strategic. I'm like, when I go to class, I may go with a lesson that is prepared in a PowerPoint, prepared a simulation, and there are, exercises that I will give to these learners. I've got all that lined up, and maybe I may also take some props along. So I may go maybe with a globe if I'm teaching geography.
Let's say you have implemented this structure. Do you see that there is that one child that's still troublesome in terms of classroom discipline, right? How would you advise young teachers out there to tackle that particular situation? They've got a structure, it's a working structure, but what is it that they need to identify to say, you know what, this one is actually a special case?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello guys, welcome back on Couch Talk with LHS. I'm your host, Mpele. So today we're talking all things education sector, we're talking career growth, we're talking challenges that you may find in the education sector. And with me today, I am always with Zanele Buthelezi, and we are visited by Mr. Ramathavha. How are you, sir?
I am doing great, to say the least, ma'am, and thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure. So before we get into it, right, I just want to read your bio. Just want to tell our viewers a little bit more about who you are. So Emmanuel Ramathavha is an educator and school manager in Hoërskool Hercules in Pretoria. Prior to that, he was a founding principal of Educator College, an independent school. He holds a BSc in chemistry and an MBA in business management, obtained from the University of Venda and Regenesis Business School, respectively. Furthermore, he holds a PGCE in senior and FET phase, and has also completed a program in business management, both obtained from the University of South Africa. His side hustle is property investment, management and development, and he currently manages a 7 million portfolio in Midrand through Move Properties. In addition, he is also invested in an education startup, Early Childhood Development Center, Lighthouse ECD, and Aftercare Center. When do you find time to yourself before we start about our topics?
That is very interesting, eh?
Exactly.
Wow. Thank you. Where do I find time for myself?
Yes.
I think, you juggle around, but you also have to have a team of people. You cannot do it all. And you've got to trust that, so if you have got as either your ECD manager or as your, maintenance manager for properties, they are doing the right job, and just share the vision with them. And once they know what is it that you want, they will be able to run it for you. It's just to monitor and correct where corrections are needed. So I think team and building one's own team, I think is something that is necessary. And I'm not there yet, but at least I know I've got a team behind me that is actually looking after my interest in all those ventures.
Okay, that's great. So I know in the education sector, if one studies to become an educator, right, you have to, unless if you're specializing, but you go into a specific, what do we call it? Like if you study FET, if you study senior phase or a different phase rather, or intermediate phase or the junior phases. So how did you make the transition from, because you did your PGCE in senior and FET,
Yeah.
and now you're running an ECD center?
Okay. What happened is when I got appointed to start academic college, Kekni, so it was a combined school. So you actually have to manage from grade RRR all the way to grade 12, and that exposure then allowed me to actually absorb some of the skills that are necessary to actually monitor and manage that sector in the education. So that's also where the passion got ignited to say, okay, I can do this, I can run this, and I can manage this. Yeah.
Okay, and then for people that are interested in finding out, because you're also trying to get, like, you know, your career progression, what is it that I need to do if I'm an educator or if I'm still a student studying education? How do I get into a specific school?
How do you get into a specific school, like...
So how do I go into, you know, starting my career and then growing or progressing in my career?
Okay, I would say right from qualifying, one need to actually be open to take opportunities that are available. It may not necessarily be at the kind of school that you want to start in, but you've got to be open and also believe that you'll be able to grow in. But very importantly is also to surround yourselves with people that can grow you, that can show you the way, so that at least you know the ropes. And I think that the other very important thing, whatever task that you're given, ensure that you give it your best, you know, wherever you find yourself, you know, just ensure that if you're given a position as let's just say you studied and you're specializing in senior phase, but there are no senior phase positions, and someone say you can come here for maybe a 3-month term for, you know, a foundation phase. If they give you that opportunity, please just take it up, and then you will then grow in the way. You may even find that maybe senior phase is not your passion, maybe foundation phase is now your passion, and transition thereof. So there are, you know, opportunities. Just go out and grab them and actually use them to actually step to where you want to go.
Can we just talk about what you just mentioned now, right? I studied senior phase, and I go into apply for a job as a senior phase educator, specializing in whatever subject that I'd be specializing in, and there is a gap, or a principal would say, for example, I would want you to go teach in intermediate phase, and I'm not comfortable with that, because intermediate phase learners are different to senior phase learners, and in terms of classroom management, I might not be able to handle it. How does one deal with such a scenario? As much as I would want to grow, but I want to give it my 100% and make sure that I deliver the knowledge as I have been trained and as I know, and I'm well qualified for the senior phase.
You see, you have got to, you know, actually want to do it. So if the will to do it is there, you will then be able to transition. So you'll be able to read more about it. You will be able to engage with colleagues as to how do I go about it. And it's like, if you accept that challenge, be prepared to actually work on it, so that at least that transition is smooth, and know your staff. Know, you know, there are policies insofar as, you know, what we do in schools are concerned. So you will have your school's code of conduct, and that basically is the basis within which you will manage such things as discipline in your school. And you know, if you are given that framework, it doesn't matter what in which kind of school or in which phase you are teaching. Use those guidelines to actually help you manage things. And of course, going back to or curriculum, again, there are policies. So you will use those policies to actually govern whatever that you are doing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It's very important because I mean I know when we interview people, we always or refer or ask the question, in terms of code of conduct, in terms of how they handle discipline, because I mean you've got fairly new teachers that are just getting into the environment. They don't know, they're not comfortable in dealing specifically, but I mean some of them, especially in FET phase, it's very difficult for them. So how can they go about, yes, I've got a guideline, but getting into a classroom is also very difficult. I know what the guideline says, but it's very difficult for me to implement.
Yeah, it is one of the things that I will encourage new educators to do is to have I would say a framework. So you said have that framework and implement it, to stick to, have a regime, something that you will do every day in your classroom in such a way that your learners, when they come in, they will know in this class this is how things are done. So I will give you an example. So you'll say, I will encourage my educators to say, when learners come into your class, 1, they must line up outside. 2, when they get inside, you greet each one of them. 3, you must have your classroom rules on the wall. Those are the classroom rules that you would have discussed with them, and you have got that contract with them. And then you must be prepared, thoroughly prepared. And then the other thing, you must also ensure that your learners, you relate with them. So there's that relationship. So if you're able to actually do that, something that I forgot to say is they must sit in alphabetical order or in a certain way that each and every day when they come in, they know, okay, I'm going to sit there. This is the arrangement kind of in this class. It may not necessarily be easy at the beginning, but with consistency, if you do it every day, where maybe there are deviations, you correct and then go back to that. Learners will know the structure, and once they know the structure, it is much easier for you to discipline because you know how to, when the deviation happens, because there is structure. It's very difficult for one to identify a deviation where there is no structure. So you do it like that. It's not going to be easy. I wouldn't want to tell you that. I mean, even with experienced educators, if you move them from one school to the other, but in my 20 years of experience, I've realized that the first year may be a bit of a struggle. New or novice educators need to also understand that it's not going to be easy. No one said it would be. You just have to be consistent. Have the structure, implement the structure, do the course correction, and be consistent like that, and things will work out well.
Yeah.
Let's say you have implemented the structure. You see that there is that one child that's still troublesome in terms of classroom discipline, right? How would you advise young teachers out there to tackle that particular situation? They've got a structure, it's a working structure, but what is it that they need to identify to say, what, this one is actually a special case?
Okay. One thing that is very important when dealing with discipline is to understand that a parent has got to be involved. It also depends from one school to the other, but in the schools that I've been involved in, you would have such things as curriculum review meetings, which are meetings that you will normally have for when you start a new term. So you discuss the performance of a learner in the previous term. You can then engage with a parent during that time to say, what, I've got a problem with little Johnny, this is what is happening in class. And if it's a worst case scenario, there and then you can, invite parents over to a parents' meeting so that at least you can engage with them on the issues that are happening in class. In this day and age, you also have the technology that can also assist you. Speaking of which, you can the likes of this system, an app called Kahoot, and wherein you can actually engage with parents there and then communicate with them to say that this is what is happening in class. Please come to the rescue. Let's meet so that at least we can resolve this issue. But also within the school structure itself, you've got people such as your grade heads. You've got your home educators who can assist you before you even go out to invite your parent. Go to your grade head to say, I have done this. What next? Your grade head will be able to advise. And then from there, your HOD, maybe your deputy principal in charge of discipline to get a point.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that you can do when there are deviations. And of course, everything must be guided by your school's code of conduct.
You have to operate within that code of conduct.
Yeah.
All right. So in terms of your role, what would you say your role entails as a principal or head of the school?
It's quite vast, I must say. My role in the main is you find that I communicate with stakeholders, internal stakeholders, that being parents, learners, educators, departmental officials, SGB. I'm also a member of the SGB as such. So that's in terms of communication, and you also have to. I also do quite a lot in terms of human resource. It be you are.
Why are you laughing when you say human resource?
I'm thinking, as a principal, you're expected to be like an HR manager.
As any particular manager, part of your job. And that, I'm glad you said that, because that's what we normally tell, sorry to cut you off, you brought it up. That's what we tell managers, that as part of your job, you are a human resource manager. So we give guidance to you, you implement.
So human resource manager, you do your recruitment, you recruit educators, you do interviews, you do in-service training, I also, I am involved in just ensuring that, every day you motivate your educators and just ensure that you support them throughout. So that's human resource function. I also do finance, so I'm responsible for budget of my school. So in other words, I've got to know, what is it that we need next year, put together a budget so that at least my governors can approve it, so that at least we can apply it the following year. Engaging with external stakeholders such as institutions of higher learning, different departments that have got interest in the school. It be social services, it be the police in terms of school safety, and churches around for different things that they would want to partner with schools, different companies that may want to be involved in our schools. That is just some of the things that I get to be involved in, and of course I account for anything and everything in a school. So in other words, from my child in class, this happened, to the school fence on the other side, someone bumped into it. I've got to go there and say, what now? What is it that we can do? So, I'm also the face of the school. When people come to the school, they say, want to see the principal. Yes, the principal doesn't know everything, but they would want to see me. Basically, I am the face of the school.
Okay. So seeing that we all things HR at Couch Talk, right? I'm gonna hamper on that a little bit. So when you, in any organization or any environment, getting the correct skill is very important, right? To ensure that we achieve the vision or we achieve the strategic objective of any company. Same as a school, getting the correct skill, somebody who's going, I should have knowledge and I should be able to impart the knowledge to the next person, which is my learners.
Yeah.
What do you look for when you do interviews? What is most important to you when you're doing interviews? I know there is a particular scorecard or sheet that you guys follow, but there's certain things that we also look for. We always say you can have the correct skill, but we're also looking for a company or culture fit in a person. So what are you looking for?
Okay. It's as a person who has been in institutions that I would say are different, in independent schools, my drive will be different to the drive that I would have in a government school. Let me start with in a government school. What I look for is a person who will, from the interview, come across a person that they know their thing insofar as curriculum is concerned, and they can manage their classes with although not with ease, but they've got an idea of how to manage the class. So those two things are key, and of course a person who show passion for learners. I know if they've got passion for learners, they will give it their all. They will say, of course, there will be things that one may not necessarily know, but if you've got that triangle, so your curriculum, your classroom management, and your love for school, at least anything and everything, will be able to fall within that triangle. So that's what I look for. And then, when I was in an independent school, it will pretty much be the same, but you are also saying you are looking for a person who, above having the curriculum knowledge and being able to manage this, manage the classroom and passion for learners, a person who will have that drive, that energy. In an independent school, I want that energy to say immediately when you are in class, because in an independent school, your educators are also your marketers.
Of course.
Your role depends on your marketers. So, there has to be that energy within your educators. So, curriculum knowledge, how to manage your class, yes, the love for it, but we also want to see it. Yeah.
So, sorry.
What was What are some of the challenges that you are faced with in terms of people coming on for interviews and them not being, for example, prepared, or what are some of the mistakes that they do while they are during an interview?
There are quite a number of mistakes that people make. A person will come to interview not being without knowing any policy whatsoever. You will try, to suss out information from them on policy, and they don't know much about it. And it's like when you go for an interview, know your curriculum policy, know what does CAPS stand for. What are the assessment requirements, school-based assessments for the year in a subject that you will be teaching? What are some of the content areas in your subject? Those are the basics. How does an ATP for your subject, annual teaching plan for your subject look like? So, what are some of the things that you will do in terms of discipline? And of course, you are guided, there are policies. You can just take a policy from a school, any school for that matter, and say, these are my guidelines for discipline, to get the point. Get into an interview knowing that. We are not saying that they will ask you necessarily those questions, but at least you will have information to fall back on in terms of responding to that. So normally, in an interview, have this structure. So when I get asked a question, I should know at least about the policy that governs that, because everything and anything, particularly in the state schools, is governed by policy. Know the policy, be able to elaborate that policy and link it to a question that has been asked, and then give example as to how practically on the ground that is applied. And it's like, if you know that, you nail any question that will be asked in an interview. So that is the basics that I think people miss it there.
Can I also just add maybe one thing? Because we've done interviews in a schooling environment, especially in independent schools. And I think there is a clause on our documentation that you may be asked to present a lesson when you're talking about ATPs. So it's very important to what you just, it's just an addition to what you just said. It's very important to know and understand what it is. In term 3, if I'm applying for a job, I get called for an interview term 3, I should know in that particular subject where we are. And I should wing it. I should be able to get up and present a lesson, because we normally give time just to present a lesson, because the principal is not always there in the classroom to see you do the presentation or to teach you.
Don't say not always there. The principal is not
no. No, but you do your classroom visits. And I feel like with the classroom visits, if they know, then you prepare extra hard. But it should be an everyday thing. I mean, we can't expect the principal to be everywhere at the same time.
No, you can't. It's like in Nigerian school, you've got about 35 classes.
Exactly.
Running at the same time. It's not, so the principal will not be in any of those classes. And, there's a lot of admin that, the principal is involved in, and he may not necessarily come there. But as an educator, you must be prepared.
You must be, And I mean, now we're moving in the, we've got cameras in the classroom to assist with that, not to check up on people, but to also just assist. You've got your, like you said, your novice teachers that are just coming in that are not sure. Maybe that's an opportunity for you to see, and then when you're having your one-on-ones, then you can guide just so that they grow. You also mentioned a very important thing, which I also want to touch on. Training and development is also key. Yes, I understand in a working situation, it's a transaction. You provide me a service, I pay you. However, what do we do over and above as employers to upskill our employees? Because we're saying resources, human resources is the most important thing in the organization. But what am I doing over and above to upskill? Any programs, let's say we're talking about new teachers or teachers that want to progress their careers. Are there programs that they can attend? And are they aligned to any CPTD points? Because I mean, you guys are, you have to belong to SACE. Any teacher has to, be SACE registered.
There are programs out there, and there are companies that offer those services, and you can look at programs such as dealing with just classroom management. You can look at diversity management. You can look at curriculum issues of curriculum, and you can look at quite a number of issues, ethics, additional ethics, and so policies, how to develop policies in a school. So those courses are there, and in this day and age, the advantage that we've got is that you need not to necessarily be physically there. So those courses, some of them will be online. So I would encourage educators who are in, and even educators who are still looking for jobs, to say, let me upskill myself, let me equip myself, because at least when you get into that interview and say, I've attended a workshop that is dealing with this classroom management,
it gives you an additional edge.
That edge. I've done coding and robotics. It gives you that edge. I've done Google Classroom session. It gives you that edge. People who are looking for an educator will know, okay, fine, this person is willing to develop themselves even before they could get an employment, and that will give you a step ahead as such.
And that's very important, because I think most employees think that development is dependent on the employer.
Yes.
Whereas it's your development, you also have to take initiative. There's now LinkedIn, which offers also online classes and courses. Go up and look for those particular classes and just upskill yourself in terms of whatever that interests you at that particular point in time. I do agree.
Just to add on that, we also just developed a program where we're assisting teachers, because we are passionate about the education industry.
Yeah.
So we do have programs, because I mean, we sat in those interviews, we visited the classrooms, we saw what things are being done and how we can do things better. So we do have programs that, you know, teachers can attend to, and they are aligned or they are accredited by SACE. So whoever's interested can visit our website and just check all the programs that we have in store. So as a principal then, seeing that you can't be at every single place at the same time, but walking down the corridors, for you to say, you know what, I've got a successful teacher, this particular teacher, what do you want to see in the classroom?
Okay. One thing that that is important is that that engagement with learners. No, when I say I've got a successful educator, it may not necessarily be, you know, I see what is written in the board. You know, I see the lesson plan on the file, because you may have a person with brilliant lesson plan in the file, and the staff that in the file. But when let's just say, moving down the corridor or doing a classroom visit, that responsiveness from learners when you are engaging with them, learners asking questions, because it's mainly, from where I'm standing, it's mainly when a person asks questions that is like their valve of learning has opened. They say, tell me more. I'm interested in knowing this. So if I get in a class and find, let's just say in a class of 25 or 30 learners, and at least I can have 5, 6, 7 of them, learners in different settings, asking questions. From where I'm standing, I say, that is where learning is taking place, because the valve of learning has opened. It may not necessarily be for all of them, but at least that percentage of learners where the valve has opened, it tells me that the educator was able to open that valve. Yeah.
Okay. Then just in terms of that, because you just, you know, how do we manage as an educator then, how does one, because we're dealing with different learners, right? So different styles are coming into place of teaching. How does a teacher then open that up to the different learners? Because you may have, yes, 7 learners might be outspoken. You may have learners that are a bit shy, like us, for example, where you have questions, but sure, I'm not going to ask those questions in front of the whole class. So what do I do? You know? So what does a teacher do then to just make sure that they've got everybody with them?
Okay. As an educator, one has got to have different approaches to the same content. And when you go to class, you should also be able to read non-verbal language. You have got to also be very, very strategic. I'm just like, when I go to class, I may go with a lesson that is prepared in a PowerPoint. I've prepared a simulation, and there are, you know, exercises that I will give to these learners. I've got all that lined up, and maybe I may also take some props along. So I may go maybe with a globe if I'm teaching geography. So I've got a globe. I've got, you know, a presentation on maybe dealing with climate, different climates. So I've got that. When I go to class, I'm delivering, of course, based on the diversity of learners that I've got in class. Different learners will understand, you know, because of different models. So to open up their valves, I may just have to be animated as well when I'm teaching there. So I'm animated. I'm not like this one voice throughout. I've got to have voice variation. I've got to, just do simple things. I was teaching my grade 12 physical science, and I made them sing nursery rhymes. So grade 12 sing nursery rhymes. Grade 12 doing, standing up and doing some exercise. It's a physical science lesson, but to open their verve, I've got to use different strategies. Did I plan for that? No, I may have not necessarily planned for that. I've prepared for my lessons. I'm confident in my lesson. But hang on, I read the non-verbal language. So if I look at a learner dozing off and say, okay, fine, it means that the energy levels are low now. Let's do something different. Maybe the majority of the class are a little bit tired. Oh, it's time to stop and say, we have now come to the end of this lesson. Let's do something that actually also augments this lesson. So in other words, you must be able to not be rigid, so go deliver. And your confidence will actually help you to be able to read the class and also able to use different strategies to open their mouth, because those learners are different and they will respond differently to how you engage. So in other words, be prepared. Ensure that you've got different approaches, and also in class have that ability to read the non-verbal language.
Okay. All right, so do you want to take us through the ECD Lighthouse? What is it? What do you do there?
Okay, yeah, it's a normal ECD. So we take learners from 6 months all the way to grade F. Those will be your 6 years. So and we also have after school care for learners from grade R all the way to grade 7.
Okay.
So that is what we do. So our program is normal usual BCD stuff. For we've got first class for infants, and then we've got a class for toddlers, pre-grade R, and also for grade R. So in a safe environment, an environment that is well put together to actually ensure that we stimulate their learning. And all our learning is through play. And it's like from when the learners come in, they do their rhymes, they do play basically. That's what we do. And what I would say, stands out for us, or what we aim to actually do as well, is to look at any child as an individual masterpiece from the beginning, not to look at them as a group. So by so doing, at least that enables us to give them learning activities that speaks to the kind of person that they are. And in our after school care, we've got homework assist, where when you drop your child, or when your child comes from school, when they come to us, an ECD, a homework assist person will be able to help them, so that at least as a parent, when you arrive home after work, you do not have to go through, having to assist your child with homework. Although it is important, but at least you do not have to. You do not have to spend all those hours. We understand that parents are tired, and so we are doing that, and we are doing that, in an environment wherein the kids are supported, and then wherein we embrace Christian values. We are a Christian-based ECD center as such.
Okay, that's great. I think it's also a very good idea with the after-school initiative, where if they don't understand, going back to it, then at least it's a safe environment where they can just go back to what they didn't understand and maybe get assistance in that.
And looking forward to that, what we are also looking at is to say that as we mature, we are also going to look at, ensuring that we become a one-stop center, because there are many other education support systems that in our traditional schools are not there. And how can we then bridge that gap to say, hang on, and such things as swimming. Some of the schools may not necessarily have swimming, they may not necessarily have programs for LO and so forth. So we're saying after school, your child can come and then they can go do swimming, of course through external stakeholders that does in partnership, so that at least the learning experience is also diverse.
Yeah, that's great. So I cannot have you leaving without talking about the new baby, the new project. Like I said, you're a very busy person, right?
Yes.
So you were one of 32 professionals
Yes.
that contributed to this particular book. So it's Real Life and Business Minds.
Yes.
So just tell us a bit more about what does it entail? 32 professionals, did each and every single person write their own chapter?
Yes, just like you put it, so all the 32 professionals came together, and each of us wrote about what we are passionate about. So you've got engineers, you've got medical professionals, nurses, psychologists, dentists. You've got quite a few educators, motivational speakers, marketing people, lawyers in there. So it's quite a diverse group of people that actually came together to actually write that, and that was inspired by one medical practitioner who I went to school with, Dr. B.B. Petler, who said, guys, let's come together and let's put this project together. And I must tell you, it was a resounding success because even before launch, we reached the national bestseller. So that
Wow.
is something.
Don't just pass it like it's nothing.
It is a huge achievement.
Nice.
So that is how successful this project has been, and all people rallied together. They did what they can to actually ensure that they write something that after reading this book you will feel that there is a value add because they wrote about something which they know and something that is close to their heart.
And it's relatable. All right. And then just tell us about, just in terms of your chapter, what did you write about?
Okay, I wrote about it's chapter 26. My chapter is chapter 26, and I took the topic of my chapter from I think those were words by Steve Jobs. You can only connect the dots looking backwards, which is something that is very close to my heart. I must say that I could have written about education and many other things, but I just look at it and say, looking at my life as a person, through it all, I couldn't see that every step of the way, whatsoever that was happening, was building me up to be this person that is where I am today. And I think maybe it is something that everyone, it doesn't matter who you are, can relate to. And the emphasis there from where I'm standing is to say, do your best where you are. With what you have. So that's it, and I accentuate that, and I wrote about the power of the spoken words. I wrote about time. I wrote about faith. It's still in that chapter, and something that I did as well was to write about just going back to the power of the spoken words. I look at the three stories, real life stories that happen in my life, where the words, howsoever mere as they were, just at the time, they actually directed my life. I would say, from how I became an educator, I actually prophesied that to say, I recall, having a chat with a friend at varsity, and I said, no, I would, it wouldn't be a bad thing for me to venture into teaching, and, a year or two later,
There you are.
I recall, this other day, I was looking for a stand to build my house in my village, and I told my aunt, I met up with a young lady, and a few minutes later, when I was engaging with my uncle, I said, I think I want that lady to be my wife. And a few years later, I got married to that very same wife, and 15 years later, we are blessed with five adorable girls. So, I prophesy, by just saying, and lastly, this story about, where I bought my first house in Midrand, which is the house that I still own. It just happened coincidentally when I was just driving moving from, I was moving from Limpopo to going back to KZN, but I had to drop people in Tembisa.
Yeah.
So I drove in Allendale Road, which connects Midrand to Kempton Park. And just as I passed, Cliffontein, I told someone, no, I would like to buy a house in this area. And believe you me, 2 years later, there I was looking for a house, and my dad took me to this location that he knew someone, and that place happened to be Cliffontein. That's where I bought the house.
Where you bought the house.
I prophesied. So when I look at that, say we must be mindful of what we say. So do what you can where you are with what you have, and be mindful of what you say. Be mindful of the time that you've got. Also, believe that things are going to work out well. Have faith that things are going to work out well.
That's powerful. That's very great. And maybe just to add on that, at times, because those are some of the things, if we could take it back into, when you're asking people about, like in the education space or anyway, when you're having interviews, that at times you don't have to wait for the opportunity. You need to go and look for the opportunity yourself. Right? So that's very great. Very powerful words. Thank you, Mr. Ramathavha.
Thank you.
But before you leave, you do not go empty-handed. You are a maths and science educator. I have got a quiz for you.
A quiz?
Yes. So I've got 9 questions. I'm looking for somebody who's got a stopwatch.
A quiz?
Yes.
Wow.
Quiz.
Wow.
So I'm going to ask you 9 questions.
Sure.
Right.
So just be mindful that
you're no longer in the classroom.
I'm a school manager. I got to ask people questions. No, they ask questions. So you're telling around the table.
Yes, you are now in the hot seat. Alright, so I'm going to ask you 9 questions. All 9 questions must be answered under a minute. We've got a stopwatch. If you get all 9 questions, hooray! If you don't, you are going to be expected to sing.
I may as well just, drink water so that
Are you ready? Can we start?
Yes, let's go ahead.
Alright, so question number 1. What 3 names result in the same answer when they are added or multiplied? 3 numbers. Apologies.
You said 3 names.
3 numbers. Your minute is going.
So you said, say it again.
What 3 numbers result in the same answer when they are added or multiplied?
You got me there.
Okay. The concept of gravity was discovered by which famous physicist?
Isaac Newton.
What is the heaviest organ in the human body?
Pass.
What does 6 raised to the power of 0 equal?
1.
True or false? A concave shape curves outwards.
Concave. Curves
Shape.
outward.
Yes.
Yes, true.
What is the prime number closest to 100?
Pass.
How many vertices are there on a cube?
There are 8.
Okay, which is that the wait. I'm gonna give you one more because they're on question number 1. So which appealing yellow fruit is slightly radioactive due to its high potassium content?
Banana.
Why is there a change in your voice? Oh, you did great!
Am I going to sing?
So the slight change was
I'll
you're
forgive
saying
you. I'll forgive you. And you sweating.
So I'm sweating.
No, I'll forgive you on this one. Thank you very much for coming through though. This was a very interesting talk and conversation, and I hope we learned a lot and all our viewers learned a lot as well. So thank you for watching. Please do not forget to like, share and subscribe, and if there's anything that you would want to comment on or just leave your comments in the section, please do so. Thank you very much. Until next time. Bye-bye.